Wouldn't get like Scranton did because they're right in the main thoroughfare with their
Mr. McDonough, if you open that door, could you discriminate against anyone who wanted to purchase the signage? If you allowed
Okay.
someone to advertise on your field,
okay.
would you be able to control any organization that decided whatever they supported?
Whatever they, okay.
To come in and do that? Would that be a possibility once you open the door?
It could become an issue. It's a first come, first served basis. If the space is available and someone signs a contract for it and it's something contradictory to whatever the morals of the community are, it could be an issue. It could be an issue. You're exactly right.
You were talking,
Yeah.
excuse me,
Good
for
point.
the money to go into the athletic fund.
Well, I thought.
Well, let me
Go on,
finish,
yeah, you finish,
okay?
yeah, I'm sorry. Yep.
In doing that, then we would be able to take money that was designated for athletics
Mhm.
then, correct?
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's
is
what.
that your proposal?
Well, if we went that
What
way,
you're
I'm really
thinking
not
about-
for it now. The more I talk to some of the people that do all the sponsoring of our athletic programs here. But if we did do it, I believe it should go into an athletic fund, because I heard rumor that it might not go, it might just go into the general budget, and that was a concern of mine, because we're cutting them way back as it is for all their, and they're very supportive. The athletic programs, and Rose, you know that, right? And we did that when our children were all grown up, we were a part of it, and we raised a lot of money, and we did a lot of good things for the kids. And I think something like this might affect the same donors in doing what they do now.
We're not seeing a situation, we had two presentations at our January work session. The first gentleman spoke to things he had done for Scranton School District with numbers of billboards around the Central Scranton Expressway, all on school property, generating $18,000 to $25,000 a month for the school district. We're not seeing that, okay? I think for the scale of what we're going to see, we've got to be careful, because we can also, by doing something like this, take the fundraising program out of the kids' hands.
I believe.
Because, you know, there are several parts to this proposal that now, are the kids, I don't know how many t-shirts you bought from those kids this year, but I got quite a few.
Yeah.
Okay, so if, and that's how, that's what they're counting on. So if we take that out of their hands with some of these programs, have we not crippled ourselves in some other way? They're not gonna be able to pay for their sports banquet. They're not gonna be able to, you know, fund their transportation as they're
Or
doing.
buy the spikes, or buy the sneakers, or
Exactly.
whatever those
So-
other organizations do for them, and I agree with you 100%.
I think we just-
And it's good that parents are involved in those clubs that want to raise money, because it's a good thing that they're involved with their children and helping out the program that their children are involved in. And I do think that something like this would hurt it, because where else are they gonna go to get those sponsors? Where else are they gonna go? They're gonna go to the same ones that everybody else is getting something for that works. So, but anyway,
The
that's
other
just.
thing is the unsightliness
Yeah,
of
the
a
commercial.
crass commercial advertisement.
And you've mentioned that before,
We've
and I
got
agree.
this parked in the woods
Okay.
and nice here, and all of a sudden we got a flashing sign,
Yeah. Shield
illuminated
Associates.
sign.
Excuse me.
Oh,
Like the one
I,
that.
I just had a,
I'm sorry, Doctor.
I know you guys are very careful when you're considering proposals to look at it. I see signs that I don't like. I see for sale signs. I see for sale signs for my elderly aunt who lives next door to me. She survived cancer. She survived losing her husband. That's a very sad sign. That's the reason she's moving, is because our financial problems have caused us to raise taxes to a point where she can no longer live in the home that her husband's death benefits allowed her to build, where she was raised, literally on the same ground that she was born and raised. So I understand that sometimes changes might produce some concerns, but you guys work with concerns all the time. You know, you
Yeah.
look at all the bases. We have lost our children's music program because of financial concerns, not because anybody wanted to do that, but because finances are so tight.
But what we're trying to say, Doctor, is if we implement this, which I liked in the beginning, it's not gonna help us out financially It's just it's gonna be a trade-off for something else. And the way these programs, the band included, all those programs,
Right.
they raise money from these same local donors.
Right.
And I
They
don't,
are-
so I
they
don't
are-
know where you reach out
Right.
above them, unless we got Adidas through Ronnie, where he works and all that. But he can help us all with Adidas and our
I-
individual
So
programs.
watering
You know,
down your
track and
pool
field
is what it
events.
is.
Yeah, it was already done.
I know how much work those kids put into selling T-shirts
Yeah, their
and such,
parents all
because
that, yeah.
the school board can no longer provide the funds, they're no longer available.
Well, we always did that though anyway, Doctor, that
I know.
the organizations had their own booster club.
Of course they did.
And raised money, because,
But currently, the only organization that has not been asked to give up is the sporting program. All the other organizations have had cuts through need
No, the
because,
Sporting programs have all been cut.
Yeah, they did.
They've all
But-
had major cuts.
Yeah,
to
they
the
won't-
point
they
where they still have transportation and such. I understand that, there is no easy way to take a very tight budget and do that. But there's no music for small children in classrooms, field trips, gym time, librarians, all
and-
these
and
things.
they're all just as important as everything else.
Exactly,
yeah, right.
exactly. So when we're talking about signage maybe not being 100% or things like that, well, of course, no one wants us to turn into some sort of a circus for the school system.
And my point is not just the aesthetics of it, but I'm just saying, make sure we understand this
Right.
and the implications.
You guys can
of what
set
it does.
limitations.
So,
You have that ability. You do it all the time. You look at the
yeah,
pros and
We've
cons.
got to look at it. all
Right, and
around.
maybe you'll pick a middle ground this time.
That's why we're having this discussion open while you people are
Right,
sitting
but
here.
we
If anybody
still-
else was here, just so you know what we're
A
looking at.
presentation that I would have expected from an advertising company would have given us a range of what we might expect in a community of our size, in a rural community,
Sure.
Say, okay, here's what we would think we could do, these are the things that you'll benefit from.
Right.
These are the contradictory items, and then say, okay, it's gonna generate whatever dollar amount.
Correct.
But we
And
don't
and you
have
can
that
set your
information.
ramifications, what type of company, one that wouldn't compete with our very important supporters in our local area. Somebody that's not going to compete with them, complement them, not compete with them to cause them any harm.
Right
But I
now-
think, again, to look at an outside source, when we're looking for a way, we have another school district not too far from us that was able to reinstate their music program. How did they do that? How? At this point, when everybody's looking at such difficult times,
Well,
how did they do that?
And that's a good point, but I looked at North Pocono, and I'm seeing them in the paper, and they're redoing their track, they're putting in a turf field. How did they do that?
Right.
I even asked that same question.
And how did they get their booster clubs to help support where they need extra coats?
Yeah.
How did that happen? I love the thought that we have a banquet for the children,
That's all.
but
yeah,
we don't have a
that's-
music teacher.
Yeah,
we don't-
and I understand where you're coming from.
Right, so I think we need to look at that, if we're gonna talk about, for safety reasons, we need certain numbers of coaches, of course, safety is always important.
Sure, safety.
But we've got to look at equity too, where you guys have been so careful to build up our music program over the years, and here now we have a whole generation of children with no music.
Yeah. Doctor, we don't really want a tax increase, we'd love to stay within the index. but
course.
We're trying to get a little bit more
Right.
out of it so we can maintain what we have going on here. We realize
Right.
we have a lot of.
The balancing act, the constant balancing act that you do.
That's a point where I differ from you,
Yeah.
is that if we were to put a policy in place hypothetically, is that the money would go into the school district. I mean, yes, is it on a baseball chain link fence in an outfield? Is it around the track?
Right.
Is it in the auditorium or the gymnasium? Or even as the policy indicates on a website? I think that if we were to take that money and to sparse it out revenue-wise
Right.
into certain aspects, whether it be the Wildcat Football Club or the band, or, that's very problematic. There's no equality in how that revenue is being dispersed inside the district, okay? As you guys said, children went to school, we had to fundraise. We had to go out there and beat the bushes. We had to sell Western Wayne basketball T-shirts. Coach Butler can attest, you can attest, everyone can attest. And I think that's part of the kids, owning, being a part of it.
Right.
Would we like to have a care package so they wouldn't have to go and do that? Of course. But if we're talking about increasing revenue here and injecting new revenue into the budget. If we were, I have a serious problem with it going and allocating to different groups. It should go right into the budget, because we're hurting. As Dr. John said, we don't have music, which I would love to see come back and to reinstitute that, but any revenue we generate is helping our financial conundrum here, which is in bad straits. So I think that anything, whether it's the gymnasium or the auditorium or online, like I previously stated, I think it's imperative that it goes into the budget that helps the revenue, and that helps offset the potential for tax raises, the potential for cuts down the road. It's in my personal opinion, it has to be placed back into the budget.
In a roundabout way, it does, because they provide things for their programs that the school district doesn't
Yeah,
have
but
to
I'm
provide.
just saying hypothetically, if
Yeah,
it were to go
yeah.
in place, and we say we were to charge Mino $3,000 on this, say we were charging $400,
Okay.
and we had 50 signs.
Mhm.
That revenue right there is revenue that we don't have currently, that's going to help
But where are
offset.
we gonna find that revenue from, AJ? I don't know where we're gonna go, because, again, the
Again,
Waymart Hotel
yeah.
gives $100 for, again, we're beating it, but you have a good point. But the bottom line is, they can only give so much, and
Yes.
they do. They take care of everything, these people.
And you're right.
And,
But if we were-
and that's done by the parents and the students going out and
Correct.
doing the fundraisers.
Correct.
And that money is needed for their programs to survive.
And
to
I
get people-
understand,
yeah.
I understand that.
So by going into the budget, you're taking money away from those programs that we're trying to maintain.
Well, not necessarily.
No?
Well, I wouldn't look at it that way, only because this revenue, if we were to enact policy, we were to do this,
Mhm.
this is revenue that we don't see yet.
Mhm.
This is all new money.
Yeah.
This is new resources, new
It's
assets.
new, but it's money that you're taking away from the programs that are utilizing that money to put back in.
In other words, the Waymart Hotel has
Gift certificates,
X number-
pieces, whatever.
right, they have X number of dollars for this.
Yeah, they do our book.
If they advertise with the signs, they're not gonna give as much pizza. You know,
Or
that's
they-
the question,
that's
that's the
something-
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
That's the question.
fundraisers that
Something we need to
programs
talk
have
to
though,
them
that
about.
they
We
do
can't
actually
just
give
assume.
money to, and for books, or the basketball team, I think, has a little. book
That's,
they
that,
do,
you're
football
probably
has a
correct
book.
there. Talk to the major donors that
Talk
we
to
have
them.
already, but you know, you certainly don't wanna take the sale of the t-shirts away from the kids and.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at the
Things
same
like that,
token,
but-
you're raising those major donors' taxes along with everybody else,
And they're getting
But-
hit
but-
worse than anyone with a tax rate.
and they're kicking back in and make sure our band and our athletic programs, they support them all. They really do, and it
So-
works that way.
So then we tapped out their budget and their competitor throws a sign up, that's beautiful, you know?
Yeah, yeah. But anyway.
It's a way to hurt feelings and lose.
Again, I think the point is, the board has a presentation from one of the advertising vendors. You know, just read through it, you know, put some thought into it. We'll get them in here to fill in some details, you know, in the May, June time zone. Let's see what we can do. But we need to get this moving along and get some direction on it.
And one other thing, I'd love for the community to be able to watch all of this important work that you're doing. I have the videos going on YouTube. I do think I have 130 signatures for concerned citizens that want to be able to watch the work that you do here. So they can see what your choices are, what your decisions are, and be involved with that. And I think it is an excellent idea. You do a lot of important things here. I want them to do it. I have 130 people,
We
That
found
want
a
to
way to
do.
do it that doesn't cost us a penny. Thank you.
but my videos are home videos.
I know.
We've
We-
been discussing it and we
yeah,
have some
We have
issues
not given
still.
up on it.
And so we have a meeting
Yes,
again
but-
this week, but we have been working on the
Good,
policies.
good,
We've had some
wonderful.
questions from our last meeting, so we're
Good.
still in the works. It just unfortunately takes a process. And,
Wonderful.
So I can really attest to it that we just met on it 2 weeks ago, I think. So we're still continuing
That's good to
meeting on
hear.
it.
That's very
It's just
encouraging.
A lot harder.
My poor
Then
little
we really
computer will be
anticipate.
glad to hear that.
Okay, so we have been working on it.
Anything else before executive session? No, sir. Folks, thank you for coming tonight. We're going to go into executive session for